like in the beginning, and that's the question that I sort of ask you, is that in the past I had sort of signified to people that I was dating, as like, look, some people kind of coined me as being unemotionally available, just pretty much due to the fact that I had not been in a relationship for 7 years. It's easy to kind of tell that. I don't necessarily think I was, but 7 years single doesn't really do you any favors as far as not being able to combat that sort of viewpoint towards you. So I had obviously formed a certain sort of, what would you say, conditioning, 7 years worth, right? So getting into it, I had to have an open conversation with her about sort of what I'm learning, my process right now, why I'm going through that process, how I'm looking to overcome it, and what I've got to overcome. And I had said this to people in the past, and they didn't want to buy into it. Either they had similar things, but they were not ready to meet that stuff head on for themselves as much as I was, and wasn't ready to feel like they had to do the same. And I ran that risk because, again, I wanted clarity. I didn't avoid shit tests. But there's a fine line.
Wait, tell me some of your shit tests.
Well, it's just like people avoid seeing the full, like having difficulty show up within the relationship, or challenges show up in the relationship, or tests to see if people can move past things. And that's why people are typically like very controlling, is because they don't want challenges to show up. Whereas I was okay with potential, because it gave me clarity on whether or not this had some legitimacy to it, or whether or not it could only survive due to having no challenge. And at some point it has to, right? So I was quite happy to be open with people up front on things that maybe were not admirable. Let's just say that's a shit test. I'm going to show you, I'm going to allow you to not only just see the admirable parts, but I'm going to allow you to have access to understanding maybe some of the things that you might not deem admirable. That's subjective, obviously, but my willingness to go and put that on the table obviously runs you at risk of people going and opting not for that, right? But I was looking for someone that was going to be secure enough or welcoming enough or appreciating enough to take that in a positive light, the fact that I was even willing to do that. And that was scary, because I was like, before having those conversations, it was just like, oh, I'm running the risk of this going the same way as it has prior. And when she was secure enough in herself to look at that and go, like, I really, really appreciate you sharing that. And that just opened up the line of her sharing her stuff, and it brought us closer together. But I had to run the gauntlet. Right? But I didn't do it straight away. It wasn't like first date or anything like that. But when you kind of get this signification that there could be something in this, a month in, 2 months in, a few months in, or whatever, when you start to see that it might be something potential here, it's like, I want you to buy into me for exactly what it is, not me just showing you on the front end exactly what I want you to see, because at some point down the line, it would bubble to the surface, and I might be more entrenched. It might have been longer down the line. So that's why, like, when people see that as like a scary thing to do, because they think, I'm going to avoid rejection here, I feel like that is saving me from a bigger ego down the line. When
you would do it sooner. So you'd be like, if you can handle this, and you're definitely going to be able to handle this later on.
Well, it's just like my authenticity had to bubble to the surface at some point. The truth had to come out, right? And it's not that it was like things that were all that horrible, but that's what people do, is they put an inauthentic self out there, not the whole kit and caboodle, and to avoid having an initial ego dent or rejection on the front end, and they think, phew, I've dodged a bullet. But what happens is, later on down the track, your authenticity has to bubble to the surface. All that stuff has to come to the surface at some point, right? And then you're more entrenched in the relationship. Maybe you've got kids now, maybe you're married, maybe you're this, and you've done a good job of getting the security of them. You've got them. It's safe. but now the surface is starting to come to the surface. So it's like I wanted to have a relationship where it's like it was built on not on you buying into half of what I am. I need people to buy into
Every part.
a lot of what I am.
Yeah.